disclosure, guys. So what you're about to see, which you can kind of see right there-ish, was sent to me for the purposes of a review. Now, I was not paid for the review, nor am I biased towards this product in any way, so you're going to get an honest review of it. So let's get to the video. So what you're seeing right here is the Yeswelder CUT55DS 55 amp plasma cutter. Cut some stuff. I'll show you guys how well it actually does cut. I mean, there's not a whole lot to a plasma cutter. It's basically an electric torch, right? So we're not going to go through a ton of stuff. I will bring you in and show you the front panel and the settings and what I set it at so that it cuts right and everything else. So let's do that. Here's the front panel. The front panel is pretty simple. You have a pressure gauge that tells you how much air pressure you have, which is nice to have right there. My ESOB is on the back where you can't see it. And then you have this where basically you can run air through it all the time or only when you pull the trigger. So that now when you pull the trigger, you'll get air to come out of it. And that will stop. It runs for a predetermined length of time to cool the torch off. Then you have your amperage reading and your amperage dial. So we can turn this all the way down as low as 10, all the way as high as 55. And I did test this when I was running the amp meter on it from about 40 amps all the way to 55. The max output you're gonna get is about 39 amps, which again, this machine, I don't know if you could tell how small it is, but that's a pair of pliers next to the machine. So it's a pretty tiny machine. Then you have your 2T and 4T setting. Now, 2T means that when you pull the trigger, you're going to get an arc, you're going to get air. When you let go of the trigger, everything's going to stop. 4T basically means you pull the trigger once and everything turns on and you start cutting. You pull the trigger again to shut it off. So you have an on-off and then everything is on, and then another on-off and then it all turns off. So if we set this to 4T, we pull the trigger, it's going to stay on, and then we got to pull the trigger again to shut it off. And so that's nice if you don't want to hold the trigger down the entire time, but again, not really useful. I usually just use it so that when you pull the trigger, it goes, and then when you let go of the trigger, it stops, because you might have a hot torch running around. All of your connections on the front panel are pretty straightforward. You have your connection for your air line and your plasma torch. Then you have a connection for the pilot arc, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then you have the connection for your switch. So pretty much that's it. The back panel, pretty simple as well. You have the air regulator and the power switch, your air input, and all that happy stuff in the power cord. Now the power cord is a 110 volt power cord right here that comes with, in the package, the 220 volt adapter. And we're never gonna run this thing in 110. You know, we need to be cutting thicker stuff, so it's definitely an interesting little machine. I'm very, very excited to see how this thing works out. All right, so the first thing we're gonna cut is this 1/8 inch square tube stock. And you can see we already cut it once or twice. So I'm just gonna kind of run a cut straight down it, just so you guys can see how quickly this thing actually cuts. All right, so not too shabby. I mean, it cut through that like butter. So, and that was real time. So it was what, I don't know, 10 seconds maybe to cut that entire length. And this is the thickness of the frames that we usually do. So we're going to be perfect when it comes to cutting frames. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move on to the 1/4 inch plate. And you guys can see this stuff is super thick. And I'll actually have to check. You know what, I'm gonna measure that plate because I suspect it's thicker than 1/4 inch. That's correct. That plate is 3/8, not 1/4 inch, which is actually even more impressive. So in the chart here, you guys can see if you want to pause that. But basically it rates up to 6mm, which 6mm is right around 1/4 inch. 3/8 is more at the 9mm mark. It's actually 8.5, closer to 9mm. So the fact that we're able to cut through this pretty well, and you'll see that in a second, is actually impressive. And again, that's that 40 amps that we're getting instead of 30 amps, because my ESOB can't even cut through this at all. So let's grab the torch and we'll cut through this 3/8 plate real quick. Yeah, I mean, that's actually surprising. Cut pretty well, very little dross on the end of that. But how it's cutting through 3/8 that smooth, I don't know. It's not even rated for that. But so far, this little guy is doing really well. All right, so a little addendum to this video. Here's this little guy, the old Yeswelder. See if we can get you a good shot of it, because it's kind of sitting on the floor right here. But you guys kind of saw the unboxing, me explaining this thing and me using it a little bit. But we went ahead and we wanted to test it out before I showed it to you guys, just to make sure that this thing was good. So let's see if we can find ourselves a little bit of light here, and we'll show you what we've been up to with it. So this Jeep that you see here was quite a nasty one. We did the frame repair like we always do on these things. But the difference is, normally I clean these frames up and then I cut them with the plasma cutter. And the reason being is because my ESOB plasma cutter is actually a contact plasma cutter, meaning that there has to be close proximity to clean metal in order to initiate the arc and get things started. With the Yeswelder machine, it is a pilot arc machine, meaning that when you pull the trigger, whether you're next to metal or not, it's going to start an arc. So what I wanted to do with it is see with the pilot arc if it would blow through all this little garbage that you see here, which is seam sealer and undercoating and all kinds of other interesting crap. And the Yeswelder legitimately plowed right through it. I mean, you can see the cut quality is actually super nice. We even were able to blow through all of this crap back here. You can see that's all junk. That's all like this rubber undercoating stuff. And I mean, we literally sliced right through it with the CUT55. So I'm gonna tell you, I used the crap out of it. I beat it up. I didn't hit the duty cycle, nor did I have any issues with it whatsoever. And the best part about it is with my ESOB, I would go through consumables like crazy. It would literally take me 6 nozzles to get through one Jeep. You can see we've been beating on this thing, running it at full bore 55 amps and just cutting our hearts away. And we're still on the original nozzle. This is the nozzle that came with the machine. This is the nozzle that you guys saw me cutting that 3/8 plate with.